Welcome back to Studio Life, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a plugin called Furnace. It's not a regular episode and it's not a regular plugin, and I'm going to explain all of that in just a minute, and then you can decide, is it? What do I mean you can decide? Well, I mean, you're going to have to take this episode as an advert rather than a review, because the plugin we're talking about is a plugin that I've made. Yep. It's been kind of coming for ages and no one's really noticed, but there's been a logo behind me for a few months now saying The Audio Firm. What's The Audio Firm? The Audio Firm is a company owned by me and another guy, and we are making plugins, and our first plugin is ready for launch right now. Let's talk a little bit about how it happened and, you know, just dispel a few of the rumours that are going to surely creep up. So to begin with, no, I didn't get approached by a plugin company and ask if I wanted to slap my name on something. That didn't happen. What did happen was about 2 years ago, I approached a bunch of different plugin companies with some ideas. I had protracted conversations with a few of them. One of them I started working with a bit, but just couldn't really agree on how I wanted this thing to be. And, you know, it just wasn't going in the direction I wanted it to go. So called a halt to it. But I kept my ear to the ground. I was looking for someone who I could work with in a much smaller way to just create something exactly as I wanted. And earlier this year, I did meet such a developer. Vic from Phasertone makes fantastic guitar pedal emulations. We had a chat and we realised we both wanted to do the same thing. He was very open to my ideas. I was very open to his way of working. We just got on straight away and we just got on with it. And we have a range of plugins coming. We've been working on this all year. And the first one is ready right now. So let's get another thing out the way. My channel obviously spends a lot of time reviewing other people's plugins. That's a bit difficult when you have your own plugins. So let's just say this. This particular plugin is a saturator color box kind of thing. At the moment, I think this is the best one that there is. If one comes in for review that I think is better, I will tell you it's better. I swear to God, I will be honest and tell you that something has come along that beats this. And what will happen is me and Vic will go away and have to come up with a version 2 that beats that. That's how it's going to work. So this isn't a review. I'm not going to give it a star rating. I can't do that. It's my own product. I like it a lot, obviously. I'm just telling you about something I'm making that if you want to buy, you can buy. And if you don't, ignore it, move on. But I think this is something you're going to really like. Anyway, let's get down to it. It's called Furnace. It's a saturator / color box. And I wanted something that felt and sounded and operated so much like an analog piece of equipment that it was indistinguishable. So that's what we've done, and I wanted the 3 different flavours of saturation. So I wanted analog tape, I wanted transformers, and I wanted tubes. And then I thought, how do I want this to operate? There's obviously loads of saturators out there. I use a few of them regularly and I like them. But there's always something not quite right. There's always some compromise. And sometimes compromise is good. Giving people less controls so they can do less damage, I think, is a good thing. And that's kind of what we've gone for with this. It's not littered with controls. It does what it needs to do and no more. So let's have a look at the interface. As you can see, it's a project box kind of design. I just thought that was a really funky look. I like the way this looks. I like skeuomorphic designs. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. That's what we're doing. So we have two big VU meters, and the left one is always the input, the right one is always the output. So at all times you can see the input and the output. We then have the three sort of algorithm selectors. So we have 4, 5, 6, which is for tape. We have TFM, which is transformer, and we have AX7, which is for tube. We then have a high boost switch. That is a shelf, just to give things a bit of a high-end lift if they need it. Doesn't often work on like using this on an entire mix or a bus, but it quite often works really well on individual instruments. We then have the drive control. The more you drive it, the more drive you get. We then have a mid-side control. I really wanted this because I think saturation can really work when you push it into specific areas, like just straight in the middle, or sometimes just to the sides, sometimes just a bit of extra width. It's really useful. And then after that, there's a mix control. Now, this doesn't always need to be set at 100%. In fact, often it's best when it's not, especially when using the mid-side control, because it adjusts the whole mix. So between those controls, you've got a lot of different options. But then there's some extra stuff. So obviously we've got oversampling. I have to have that. There has to be a bypass button, which doesn't click, obviously. There's an input and output control, as you would expect. And things like the 456 tape emulator, if you set that with just the input set normally at 12 o'clock, it's never going to do any real damage. It will just sound like tape. It will sound pleasant. If you want to overdrive it and make it sound like something, you know, that's really doing some damage, then you're going to have to crank that input so that the red LED comes on to show that you're overloading, just like a piece of hardware. If you hold down shift while you're pushing up the input, the output will dip by the same amount, so we've got gain matching, so that keeps everyone happy there. And then lastly, we've got the X button. Now, the X button, again, might not work too well on stereo buses or buses generally, but on individual instruments, it can be amazing. And it can work completely independently. And signal chain wise, it's right at the end. It's after the mix control of whatever you've done there. But let's say you don't do anything with the other controls. You just press X. It's an EQ curve. It's a bit of a low end boost. It's a bit of a cut in the low mids. And then there's a high shelf, which has a bit of width to it. The whole thing also has just a little bit of saturation. And when you push it, it can be magic on certain things, which you're going to see coming up in just a minute. I'm going to do some demos. Let's quickly run through these different algorithms. So we've got 456, which we actually got a real 1/2-inch tape mastering machine with some 456 tape on it. That's what that is. We've then got TFM, which is a Neve 8068, a pair of, and it then also goes through another pair of transformers, which I'm keeping secret because, you know, can't tell you everything. And then the AX7 is a pair of long plate 12 AX7 triode tubes. And they come out of there and they go into a pair of Lundell transformers. It's really kind of special. So you've got a choice. You've got those three different kinds of saturation, and then you've got some quite nice control over it. And generally all of the time, if you don't push this into the red, the drive is going to give you nice stuff. If you start pushing it into the red, then you're going to get the dirty stuff. So it's kind of like doing two things at all times. And the other thing to bear in mind is that it really is a colour box. These things do affect the tone of what you put through it. The tape will add a lot of welly in the bottom end. The tube sometimes loses a bit at the bottom end. It's going to do different things depending on what you put through it, but it is very much a colour box. Anyway, let's have a quick listen to some examples and then we'll come back and talk about pricing and demo and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's try some tape. Bypass is in. Here we go. Bypass. I'm blown. Back in. Many fears, worries you can let go. Dry your tears, promise I will stay low. So you can hear there's a more pronounced bottom end. It's got that kind of warm, slight sort of touch of fuzz that analog tape gives you when you're driving it just right. It's not over the top. We've designed 456, the tape emulator version, bit of this rather, so that no matter what you do with the drive, it's never going to completely pop off and go nuts. This is designed to sound like tape, not tape being destroyed. So, you know, if you set the drive, let's say at 9 o'clock and we set the mix full up, it's going to sound very subtly like tape. But it's definitely there. I would say start with drive straight up, start with the mix on 100%. The mid side control just means we can push it one way or the other. If you go 100% sides with the mix at 100%, you'll just get the side signal. So the more you use the mid side control, the more you need to dial back the mix. But it just gives you such a lot of possibilities for pushing this saturation exactly where you want it. So I would always start here. And if you want to do something more interesting, you can push the drive full up and maybe back the mix off a bit. And maybe just push it a little bit to the side. Let's start in bypass. I love it. It just sounds so legit. It sounds exactly like tape. It's exactly what I wanted. Let's say you really want to smash it. You want to crush it to tape, get the tape compression, full on saturation that you can use creatively maybe. To do that, if you hold down shift and push the input up, you get gain matching. Let's stick that to sort of 3/4. Let's put the mix full up for now so you can hear it. Yeah, in fact, I'll start with the mix off and I'll wind it in slowly. Let's see what you reckon to this. I mean, you can tell it's going to be doing the right thing because the overload LED is lighting up. It's going in the red, therefore you're getting the sound of tape in the red. Start breaker. Bypass. So if you want to do that, you can break things up using tape. I've designed it so that if you leave input and output set where they normally would be, you're just going to get relatively sensible settings of something sounding like it was recorded on tape. All right, let's have a look at the transformer. Let's listen to the drums on this track. Nothing applied as yet. Let's turn on the transformer. Here we go. And back into bypass. You can hear the thickness in the bottom end in the kick, and also the snare's just got a very different feel about it. This is set with the drive straight up, the mid sides straight up, and the mix at 100%. Haven't messed with the input or output at this stage. Just like that, it's a really good starting place for pretty much everything. But what if we want to mess with it? Let's have a play. So that's giving it some drive and some width, and I've backed off the mix, just an instantly better sound. What if we actually want to hear those transformers cooking? Can we do that? Of course we can. Again, hold shift, push the input up. Let's drive it so that we're getting into the red and see what we get. So you can hear it's breaking up. Might not be particularly useful in this situation, but there's some things you can put through a transformer and destroy it like that, and it sounds great. We'll back off the drive a bit, back off the mix a bit. Back in. You can hear it's still doing something really cool. The amount of colour it's giving it, that subtle saturation, which is just making everything thicker. Love it. Let's bring the input back down at sensible levels, and let's have a play with the high boost. A lot of the time I wouldn't recommend this on a bus, or the stereo bus especially. On individual instruments it can work really well to bring some top end into the equation. it can be too much. Let's have a play. You have to back the mix off generally. Really like that. Okay, that's the drum sound. That sounds great. Let's have a listen to the bass. Let's see what that's doing in the situation. Let's fire up the bass furnace, which is this one. It's quite a nice raspy bass. Let's see what we can do with a bit of transformer. Nice, bit more saturation, giving it a bit more depth in the low end. I love it. Let's see what's going on with the guitars. Let's fire up the furnace that's on the guitars. Okay, that's a pretty nice guitar sound. If we add some transformer to it, what are we going to get? So that's 100% mix on the transformer, 100% drive. We've pushed the high boost on. Really nice sound. Just sounds like the transformer's in an amp starting to break up, right? What happens if we push the input? Let's try that. I think that sounds fantastic. It just sounds so much like hardware. It's really freaking me out. Probably adding saturation to your drums, to your bass and to your guitar, all in the same mix, probably a bit much. Maybe not do everything, pick one or two things, but just shows you what it can do. Amazing, amazing. Right, let's have a look at the AX7, the tube saturation part of this. This you can use on electric guitars. If you really push the input and really push the drive and the mix up, it will give you that beautiful tube saturation. But it's again set to do more useful things for most of the mix. So let's say you want to put some tube saturation on a drum parallel. It won't really start cooking until you push that input up and get that red light going. Everything before that is relatively subtle, but it gives things a fatness and a warmth. Let's have a listen on the drums on this. That's in bypass. Put it in. Bypass. And in. Let's give it some more mix. Bit more obvious. Bypass it. Little whip. Mix back a bit. Let's see what we can do on the 2-bus with a bit of tube. Let's back off the drive a bit to start with. So you can already hear at this setting where basically, you know, 50%, it's starting to sort of round off those peaks, isn't it? The transients, you can already hear them being affected by the tube. So I would say that was too much. I'd back that off. Really hear that low end extension as well. That saturation in the low end is beautiful. I don't know about you, but to me this sounds and operates like hardware. It's almost like it's alive, that you have to get stuck in, you have to change the drive and the mix and the input and the output settings constantly in order to get the balance of something that works perfectly for whatever you're putting through it. But I've never heard a plug-in sound so analog. This is the one for me. Right, let's have a quick chat about the X button. What does it do? Well, it's signal flow wise, it's after everything. So it's after the mix control for the rest of it. So if you set the mix at 0, you're not going to get anything from either 456, transformer or AX7. They're going to do nothing. And the X button can work independently on its own. It goes at the end. So if you're using any of the other stuff, this will come after that, even after the mix. Now, it doesn't work very well on stereo buses. It doesn't work very well on your, you know, any bus or any sort of a collection of instruments together. It's probably not the right thing. However, on individual things, it can do something fantastic. So it's an EQ curve. It's a little bit of a boost in the bottom. It's a bit of a scoop in the low mids. It's a bit of a high shelf, and that high shelf has some width to it. It's just like a magic button sometimes for certain things. Listen to the acoustic guitar in this for a second. Here we go. That's with it. Without it. Without. Take it away. Just shrink. Grows. I love that. So now you've heard it. So the tape, you can tell it's really cohesive. It sounds like tape. It's amazing. I think the transformer circuit, probably my favorite one. It's just got that transformer warmth. It just has. It sounds like hardware. And the tube one, again, it's doing that thing. It's giving it some depth. It's just, you know, it really works. To my ears, operating this very much is like operating hardware, and that is the key. Now, how did we do it? Well, here's the thing to bear in mind. I designed what this looked like, and I came up with what it was going to do, but I have no clue how to code anything. So that's where Vic comes in, and he's a very smart guy, and he's basically using, what does he call it? It's a neural network inference engine with detailed circuit analysis and modeling. So it's running in real time. It's doing some incredible stuff. It's not like anything else I've ever heard. It just sounds completely analog, and it's working in real time. It's pretty amazing technology. What else can I tell you about it? Well, obviously, because I slate everyone for not giving everyone a proper demo, this is a fully operating 14-day demo. No silly noises, none of that stuff. It just works properly for 14 days. There's no iLock, none of that. Just install it and it works. And the prices, obviously, no silly prices, sensible prices that make sense for what it is. So $59.99 or £45 or €50. That's the price. No discounts, no inflated prices to make it look cheaper later. That's just what it costs. It's 50 quid or 45 quid in pounds. It's available Mac or PC, AU, AAX, VST3. Fully certified. You're not going to get any weird things popping up saying you can't run this software without clicking this to say it doesn't matter if it goes wrong or any of that. It just works properly. That said, it's our first piece of software, so if it needs updates, it will get updates. As we go along, we will make little tweaks, make it better. If anyone reports any issues, we will fix them. I guarantee it. Anyway, there you go. The audio firm Furnace. It's the first of a series of plugins that's going to come out over the next year. I really hope you like it. I think it sounds awesome. I've started using it a lot. The last few months I've been using it on everything. And there's been a few test pilots out there doing exactly the same. Everyone appears to love it. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. It's out right now. There'll be a link below. Go and have a look, download a demo, tell us what you think. Anyway, this has been more of an ad than a normal show, so I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff that I normally do. We're just going to call it a day there. Anyway, Furnace from the audio firm. Check it out. I'll speak to you soon. Adios.